My first concert that I ever went to, I think maybe around like 9. I went with my mom to see James Taylor at the New York State Fair. Yeah, James Taylor is one of my mom's favorite artists, and we went to that show. And the thing that I remember the most about it, I think I knew like maybe Fire and Rain, and that was the only James Taylor song that I knew. Um, but the thing I remember the most about it was that he said the F word like or in the middle of in the middle of the concert. He's like, I was remembering this the other day. There was this Brian McKnight song. I just was transfixed, and I that began my obsession with R&B music, and then eventually, just listening to R&B, that kind of became my gateway into rap, and that was the music that I fell in love with first, because I think it was like nothing I had heard in my house growing up, um, and it felt like a secret, felt like something that was like mine, that I had discovered. Obviously, I hadn't discovered it, but I had this personal connection with it. I was obsessed with the Red Hot Chili Peppers when I was growing up. Just their camaraderie and their brotherhood. I just felt I was like, I want that. I want to feel like I'm in a gang. I want to feel like I'm a part of something. I feel like, I want that us against the world feeling. Um, and that's what being in a band was. And and then I was just obsessed with music. So I was always straddling these two worlds of like theater and that end of the performing arts, and musical theater. I did a lot of musical theater, and then being in bands and performing. And I think ultimately I mean, it was kind of a combination of things. I loved the autonomy that I had as a songwriter and as a front man of a band. I was making my own work from when I was 13. Like when I was started writing songs, I was making my own work. I wasn't beholden to anyone else, in order to do what I wanted to do. And I think I really loved that feeling. And I think that I felt like I personally had something that I wanted to say. Like I wanted to create this family. My brother and I growing up, had a very kind of fraught relationship. We weren't that close, but we were also forced to be very close. And because of his disability. And I think that once we started playing music together, then there was something else. There was like something outside of us that we were working together towards, and where we both were meeting on common ground. He was an incredible musician, and I was not as proficient as he was on piano, and on any other instrument other than my voice. Like I could sing, he could play the piano. It was a perfect match. And so I wanted to be with him, and I wanted to be with my best friend who I grew up with, who started the band with me. And then eventually when we met Adam, then we became this gang. And even now, years later, that it's Adam and Casey and I. It really still feels. I still feel so lucky that I have this family. Our roles, kind of from the beginning, have been pretty clearly defined. Which, you know, take that as you will. But that really helps. And then I also just like love working with other people. I I have done this. I just did a solo record. I'm still now doing this solo project of mine, which is so fun. It's been really cool to do that completely on my own and work with a bunch of new people. But regardless, I'm still working with other people. I love to work with other people. Um, Making stuff is very isolating, can be very lonely, and way more fun when you can do it with other people. So that's helped. And I think also, because we all have this kind of collective psychosis where we just believe in what we're doing so strongly. So we started this project called EG, that started in the pandemic out of kind of like a place where we had been writing as a band. We had started to work with other artists as a kind of a production team and a songwriting team where, we'd get into a room, Adam, Casey, and I would get into a room with an artist. I would work on top line, writing the lyrics and melody with that artist. And then, the boys would come in and help me with the production. And we did that with Lizzo. That was the first artist we worked with on her first record. And we really loved doing that. And we're starting to work with other artists a lot more. And as things happen, as things go, sometimes you write a song and it's not that great and doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes you write a great song and because of timing or just because of like tone or whatever, it doesn't end up coming out. And it was kind of disappointing to have that happen it's always disappointing when that happens. And so we were like, what if we created a platform that was so low stakes for the artists involved, where it's like, this is just a one-off thing. And it's like under our kind of name featuring them, but I could not sing a single word on it. It doesn't matter. It still falls under the EG umbrella. And it was just a great way to get those songs that would have just ended up on hard drives somewhere out into the world. And then I realized that it was also an opportunity to showcase some of them under the radar artists who I just love so much, or just friends of mine. And, we get to use our platform, whatever that platform is, to showcase these artists that we love. And then there's some artists like Teddy Swims, who already, Teddy is way bigger than we are, but, he's a fan of what we do. And I love him so much and love his voice so much and have wanted to do something together. And, I texted him if he wanted to get on this song and he was like, absolutely. So that's kind of how that project has been going. It's been so fun to continue to watch it evolve. And I love working with other people. So I wanted to make a record that had those little kind of like, that felt like a book on tape narrative that was going throughout. And then I was like, okay, we got to write a narrative. And the narrative that came to mind, I was always obsessed with drawing big, long shadows on characters, big kind of scary, like a small person and then this big looming shadow. And I had that image in my head, and I came up with the idea of this character, a blind girl whose shadow comes to life and helps guide her through the world. But the shadow has its own nefarious intentions. Not so nefarious, but it turned into a story of what happens when you create a part of yourself to protect yourself that then becomes detrimental to your own health. Like giving your shadow self too much power or influence. And then we made a podcast. We actually made a narrative podcast out of this idea, and had some incredible writers work on it with us. And now it's being developed potentially into a TV series, which is really exciting. This new record is very much me and my story and growing up and looking back on my teenage years, my 20s. I'm solidly in my mid-30s now, and I think I'm getting a little nostalgic. But also beyond that, I'm trying to figure out who I am now and who I will be as a real grown up. And in order to do that, I had to look back. I had to go back to where I'm from, go back to my hometown, and go back to the people who raised me, who I love, who um, people I've loved and lost, and who've stayed by my side, and who drifted away. All of that. I love movies. I love to watch movies. I'm a big cinephile. I love to exercise. I really feel like it's one of the things that grounds me, just in as a part of my daily practice. Uh, Being in my body, working up a sweat. Uh, it just feels good. That endorphin rush is very necessary. I love to cook. I've been getting better at that, and having a lot of fun learning about it. It's funny because like I remember when I worked in this really awesome restaurant in Brooklyn for a couple years when I was living there, a place called Vinegar Hill House, and I the food was so good I couldn't give less of a shit. I was just like trying to make money and like you know become a rock star. That was like all I cared about. I was like, I don't give a shit about your foie gras or your fucking chicken liver mousse, or your red wattle pork chop. I don't care. And now, like, oh god, I'm such a nerd. I'll watch Chef's Table and just be taking notes, and I've become such a foodie, and I've learned to love to cook so much that I wish I could like go back and work at the restaurant again. I really don't, but I wish that I could, kind of, for like an afternoon. I would recommend those three: Perfect Days, Zone of Interest, Anatomy of a Fall. I also just watched this movie called They Cloned Tyrone, that is on Netflix, and it is that's definitely in my top five, top 10 for this year. We are so excited. This show is really special. We've been rehearsing all month and getting it ready for you, and we're going to be playing a really really great combination of all of our records, and a bit all three of our albums, some of the EPs prior to that, and then also a couple new songs from this upcoming record. But yeah, it's going to be a really special show, and oh my god, we can't wait to get over to your side of the world.